This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Carm Capriato, your aftermarket podcast pioneer, with part 3 of our Scan Tools series. Got the same crew, Matt Fanslow, Keith Perkins, and Bill Nalu from part 1 and 2. And in this episode, we are hearing about preferred scan tool preferences by platform, an important segment. We also hammer about the investment the shop needs to make in scan tools for the team, and we blast out some additional myths. The team speaks to the difference between a scan tool and a diagnostic platform. Links to the previous 2 episodes are in the show notes on the website, or find them on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks to our partners, Apex and Shopware, for providing this episode. You know, with registration now open for Apex 2021 in Las Vegas, you can already feel the excitement building for this year's homecoming. I personally can't wait to reconnect with all of you in person. Hope to see you there. The dates, November 2nd through the 4th. Be there. Registration, aapexshow.com. Here's a little tip for you. Sell with clicks, not calls. Showcase your technical expertise and get to yes faster with Shopware's online interactive repair orders. You'll put your value at your customers' fingertips. Book a demo at getshopware.com. Hey, put your time into this episode and learn a bunch of things from these guys right from the trenches. Share this episode. Improve the professionalism of our industry. Recommend this podcast to your peers. Hey, a warm welcome to my 3 amigos, as we're kind of relating to this whole scanner series, Scan Tool Part 1, Part 2, and here's Part 3. With me is Keith Perkins, and Keith is with L1 Automotive Diag and Programming, and also L1 Automotive Technology. Bill Nalu is here from Interstate Auto Care in Madison Heights, Michigan, and Matt Fanslow from Riverside Automotive Red Wing, Minnesota. I'll get that right. So, guys, let's pick up where we left off in part 2. It was really a great episode. I mean, we went down some rabbit holes, but you know that's what happens when 3 really smart guys. And by the way, Bill's a shop owner, Matt's a Diag Tech, and Keith's a mobile guy and a trainer. So, great cross section, guys. It's yours.
The natural question has to be, Keith, what's your favorite scan tool?
The red brick from Snap. No, I'm kidding.
Not the graphing red brick?
No. I would say I don't know if I have a favorite. It depends upon the manufacturer every time. But like my first go-to all around, and I'll split for myself, domestic and Asian, I have one aftermarket scan tool I go to first, and European I go to another. Just because they're so different of worlds. And I don't have one tool that does all of them really strongly to even the level which I would recommend a single aftermarket for all of that. So I find myself grabbing 50-50 between an Autel or a Launch tool, one of the many versions that are out that I have most of them. There's hardware improvements with every generation of them for either a domestic or Asian. And then depending upon the European line, I will usually grab an AutoLogic or an iScan product. So if I have to pick one more often than the other, I probably select the Autel more than the Launch. And then I probably select the AutoLogic, either the Drive Pro or the Blue Box, whatever van I took that day, whatever make I decided on that day, for a European model first. That's easily my top 2 aftermarket scan tool picks. First grab, kind of almost no matter if it's a Diag job, especially. What about you, Matt?
I would say I'm very similar, actually. I too sometimes depends on what I feel like. I would say it's split between the Autel. I have a 909. I would say I use that. It's got to be close to 50-50. And then I have not the launch, but I have a Top Done Phoenix Plus, which is I got that because it had lifetime free updates. I just couldn't turn that down, but it's essentially a launch.
Right.
Those, I would say they dominate what I grab, regardless of car line, until something we've talked about previously on a lot of drivability type issues, namely when I want to watch graphing data of maybe fuel trims, something of that nature. then I do go grab a Snap-on. I still like the graphing on the Snap-ons better, and the recording, because it's all, once you're graphing, it's recording the whole time, and then I can freeze it and upload it fairly quickly. But I would say, where Snap-on many years ago was always the first grab, now it's very specialized for me. I probably use the Zeus tablet more for VAGCOM than I do for the Snap-on software.
Yeah.
My favorite is this really compact one. It's yellow, and it fits. It's so compact. It fits right into the ALDL connector. I think it's called Fixed. I love that one. That is my favorite, because that's where show and tell really comes in for a marketer. I just love those things. I get to answer to that customer what a bunch of rip-off con artists we are, and how we don't know what the hell we're talking about. Just love that thing.
I can't believe you went there.
You have to. You have to. And the reason you have to is, seriously though, my favorite scanner is the one that the technicians feel most drawn to. So we've got a Zeus, and we've got, we're fully covered for GM, Ford, and Chrysler with all the factory tooling. And then beyond that, we've got an F-Car, and we've got, a Autel Maxi Sys that Matt helped me pick out. And it's whatever tools they're using the most, I'm good with. I'm agnostic in that, and I'm not qualified to tell you experts anything more than the fact that I'm here to support incredible craftsmen like you in the four walls that I in the people that I'm in charge of. So, but with this thing with this Fixed, we talked earlier in the previous episode about how we're going to get technicians to, it would be great. It would be wonderful if we locked this part of the industry out and increased, we'd be able to charge more because information is worth more. Meanwhile, while we're trying to do that within our ranks, people, venture capitalists outside the industry are coming in wanting to dumb it down dangerously enough, even more so than it is now. I guess my question to you, gentlemen, as a marketer, are you done trying to fight some of that and just sort of, and so let me just explain sort of what I do. Customer calls up and says, how much you charge for a evap canister for my 2012, blah, blah, blah. And I say, how did you gather that information? Well, it's real easy. I bought this thing from Fixed. I said, wow, it's impressive. And it tells you what's wrong with the vehicle? Well, yeah, it tells me that's what's wrong with it. I said, what exactly does it say? And it'll always the word, circuit in there, right? Or yep. Right. And then I always say, what's the operative word in what you're reading there? And they always miss it. And they always, I don't understand what you're asking. I said, the word circuit, what do you think it's talking about here? Do you understand that where you're headed and why it is that you're talking to probably the only person out of the next 10 shops that you're calling that's going to explain to you sort of how dangerous this road that you're traveling here? What if it doesn't cost anything to fix the car while you're asking me what it's going to cost to diag it? And so we start with that 10, 15 minute drive to the shop. Let us get under the hood just to take a quick look and find out whether this vehicle is a good candidate for diagnostics at this point. I've had this discussion, on another forum, and this is a very, very difficult thing for a lot of, it's almost like it's one or the other. It's like we're in two camps here. And we haven't figured out yet that we haven't yet qualified the customer for a diagnostic charge yet. Over the phone, we have yet to determine that they need us in that capacity. And too many of us don't know how to book the appointment, get the customer in, have them get comfortable with who they're talking to in the surroundings that is your building and your waiting room, and understand why it is that we're going to do what we're going to do. And as soon as I say something like that, people say, oh, you're giving away diag. Nothing could be further from the truth. Do you think I'm stupid enough to give away diag, the most important commodity that we sell?
Expensive.
So I think from a marketer standpoint, I think we have to learn that these scanners are tools of the trade, and that they in and of themselves, if there are already technicians that are, budding technicians that are getting out there, I think, Matt, you and Keith would agree with this, is that if you think a tool is going to make you the next level tech, you're sadly mistaken, because again, it's going to be that shiny new object, as if those snap-on wrenches are going to allow me to turn that, to turn with just that much more accuracy and that much more precision. It doesn't do it. It still requires experience and breaking things before you can figure out how to fix things, right?
Matt and Keith, ever get a phone call from a peer, or in the network and say, listen, my guys just told me that we need to buy this tool, X tool. since I'm an owner and I'm really working their purse strings, I haven't been in the shop in so long, I'm not paying attention to what they need. What do you think of that tool? You ever get requests for that?
I did that with Matt.
And I'm not even in it compared to Keith. I think his email is probably flooded with them.
I've got to the point where I usually just send a link to a video where I did on the tool. Like, here's my thoughts. It does happen so often. And it's just because the nature of owning that many tools, you get some experience on it. And I can honestly tell you, I can't think of a tool that I have purchased that I regret altogether. But part of that's from me reaching out to other people. I think I reached out to Matt and asked about a particular tool that was green. And then I asked a couple other people about it. And, well, I was the Bosch. I got no problem saying it. And I was just basically told it will add zero functionality to over what you have now. Just don't do it. Just a few times have I decided not to purchase a tool. It's very, very, very seldom that happens. So I'm happy with almost every tool purchase, and I have most of them. Almost, if you can come up with it, I've probably got it or a variant of it, and it adds some kind of functionality, or something about it is better, or it sends I have an $800 launch tool that I love, and it was really inexpensive. I think I told Matt to get one. He had to. He'd be mad if he didn't. And just the report function, I like that. Even if it doesn't do anything else very well, it makes a great looking report. It's easy to offboard off the tool. Yes, often I am asked.
And for that price, it makes it that candidate for one in every technician's hands.
Right, at the very least.
Yep.
Hook this up to every car, scan it, save that, then do your thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to use this tool. Use a different one if you want.
Something Keith and I were talking about earlier is how the stuff keeps evolving and improving, and different tools come out or updates come out. If you ask me what scan tool I like, it's probably going to ask you what the car line is. And a lot of times, for a while, it was very, very popular question on Ford to help find misfires. At the time, I was working for Pico, the largest distributor of Pico in North America, I think. For sure the USA, and now it's Pico USA, but I was working for the entity that evolved into Pico USA, Craig Technologies, and a very common phone call was, will this help me find misfires on Fords? It was because Ford IDS has a histograph that shows misfires brilliantly. I mean, it is brilliantly. Yeah. And at the time, aftermarket tools didn't do it so well, whether they tried to mimic it or do their own variant. Snap-on did a horrific job. It was horrible. You're better off using Mode 6. Way better off using Mode 6. But now, I don't mean now like this year, off the cuff, I got to say, 3 years ago at least?
Yeah.
You know, these other scan tools, namely, it sounds like we're really name dropping Autel and Launch, but I mean, those are the two
big
heavy
players.
They're big players, right? They do that power balance brilliantly. At one point, Ford misfire, IDS, factory scan tool. Don't mess around. And then as the capability improved with some of these aftermarket scan tools, no, we grab them. Don't mess around with IDS. IDS doesn't come out until probably programming.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, something just occurred to me. Do you guys think that there will be a database, something similar to Identifix for the world of programming specifically? I mean, I know IATN and Diag Network, you've got your own specific high level technician forums or whatever, but do you see a more sophisticated paid subscription version of something where you would pay into it, and then that network or what have you would be supporting your effort to purchase, maintain, divest in, overlap in tooling and so forth?
Honestly, it sounds like I'm just plugging him because he's here, but the reality is Keith's website fulfills a lot of that. I think Diagnostic Network offers some as well, and that's growing, of course, but so is Keith's. Yeah, I just think that's exactly it. There's a couple of Facebook groups that delve into it. Isaac has one, J2534
USA.
Yeah, USA. And then there's another.
What's your website address?
L1training.com. I mean, it's because it's hyper focused. That's what I've always been the programming guy. As long as as long as I've been on the Facebook groups and going to training events, it's always been, oh, you do a lot of programming. Like, yeah, it's what I try to specialize in. It seemed to be a need. And, you can't put a window switch in a Chevy Silverado without programming it anymore. So it became something that was my thing, what I'm known for to a big degree. So I started acquiring all of my info and putting it into something that was not quite searchable, but either videos that are broken down. And now it's at the point where you can go in and go, man, I need to find out how to get this ACU coding for this Hyundai. Like, oh yeah, you just go to the resources tab and there's a video on how to find the ACU coding on Hyundais or on Kias, or I'm trying to find the Java version. Oh, I host it right here because it's a specific Java version for GM. If it is programming related, I try to write some kind of documentation for it because it is so clouded and it's so different from the rest of the industry. It's not even like picking up buying an OE scan tool will intuitively help you do that, with exception of like Chrysler. I feel like late model Chryslers, the factory scan tool, YTech makes it just so intuitive to do something.
Yep.
To program, to look at data, to do a special function. It's there. It makes sense.
Yep.
Everything else is some kind of additional add-on software and another hurdle or different things or a whole nother software suite or subscription on its own just to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks, Matt, for plugging that.
Well, but it's true, right? I've dedicated all of my time. Here's a resource because it's there and it's good.
As you're talking, earlier before we started recording this, we were talking about, search engines, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, what you guys are describing is ever more perishable. This amount of data that you have in your large brains that are holding all this information. What a shame it would be if we as an industry can't collate this stuff, put it into a highly intuitive, highly searchable, highly, a Google. Imagine what would happen if Google plucked you guys out and said, we're going to offer you guys a boatload of money to no longer do this, a onesie, twosie kind of a thing. Forget about having 4 employees, Keith. We're going to pick your brain and we're going to take another 10 Keiths and 10 Matts. And we're gonna create an ecosystem, a repository of information that would allow for people to pay into it and monetize it that way. And I don't know. I'm not trying to change your mind about your business model or anything like that. I'm just sort of as I'm in awe of technicians that have all this information, and yet we have an industry for all the reasons that we know of, and some of the reasons that we don't know of, that we don't even understand yet, that just can't seem to monetize it to the extent that we all know that we should. I mean, a technician, an A-level technician, should be making well in excess of $100,000 in flyover country, 150 on either coast at this point, just for tax purposes, right? Because they're giving up more. But that's a beginning conversation. This isn't like we're no longer in this where like this is where this is what the aberration is, right? This should be the normal thing. How do we do that when they won't let an A technician off the wheel far enough to go out there and gather some of this information? That's why we have sort of a team effort when we've got a vehicle that's sort of kicking our butt. It's all hands on deck for a short period of time to figure out which way we're going to do this, because putting one person on there risks them having a bad day, turns into a bad week, and it bleeds over into the rest of the shop. And then you've got your head technician going, well, I'm getting all the difficult stuff. Meanwhile, the B techs and the C techs are pumping out hours and hours of gravy out there, And so you can see sort of how this turns into a problem if a shop doesn't have a process in which to save, to sort of gather the troops and get in a circle and say, this is how we're going to do this. We've got resources in-house and outside of us. Long question.
It's like $1 million question.
Yeah. At least.
Yeah.
And the thing is no sooner do I say this than realizing the fact that there are data collection repositories that we, for good reason and for bad reason, talk down about them and say, oh, you know what, they're a silver bullet and all this other stuff. But the fact of the matter is, as we had talked about in the last episode, the medical industry runs that way. There's no general practitioner that is ever going to guarantee a diagnosis. It's always take this and call me back. We've had good success with this. It means that 80% success rate or 70% success rate. Don't even talk to me about what these 7 cocktail drugs are going to do together.
You mean that we can fix your car 80% and it only turns left and you should be happy with that?
Oh, God, no.
You got to come back and pay us again to fix it.
I'm just surprised doctors don't have spare parts to try. Yeah. This is a known good.
Yeah.
A flat rate surgeon just keeps extra kidney in the freezer.
That is too funny.
Then he goes home in the garage and on the side
puts it back in the box.
I'm going to take 2 hours to do an operation. Normally takes 1.
Yeah. Well, no, in fairness, just to clarify here, you know what I'm talking about. They come in, you got a headache or whatever. He says, well, I see your white blood cells are this and these are elevated. That's what so here's a couple of things. We're going to monitor you for the next couple of days. You come back and we're going to do some more work and see how it goes. And then it's a never ending thing. And my point about this, and I'm not disparaging what they do. They're working on human beings, right? We can replace cars. They can't replace lives. But damn it, we have people's lives on the line too. Our diagnostics are every bit as consequential when that vehicle loses a wheel on the road or has a pregnant mom on the side of the road, between Timbuktu and Neverland. It's, there's a 30-mile exit between, on this freeway. So we take it every bit as seriously. I think in some ways, we hold ourselves to an unrealistic standard and we get ourselves into trouble sometimes by saying, this is going to fix it and this is what's going to happen. And we don't do enough of the marketing end of it, the communication portion of it that says, this is what we know is going on. We're confident that this is going to take care of the problem. However, with that said, the vehicle is extremely complicated. There's multiple systems at play here. And so if there's anything else that happens, if this check engine light comes on, if it does anything else weird, we need to do further diagnostics here. Are we good? We're good. No customer says, no, that's not reasonable to me.
Right.
And anybody who says, well, no, I have to have 100%. At that point in time, you say, well, who exactly gives you 100%? Your doctor, your roofer, your plumber? Nobody in their right mind says, this is what I know is going on. We're restoring fuel pressure to get this vehicle fuel pressure. What happens beyond that? I don't know. This is we know this car. We've known this car for 45 minutes at this. We've never seen this vehicle before, right? As diagnosticians, I don't think we do enough of that to save ourselves from the problems that come up as a result of that. And I think because of that, and because of the fact that we as an industry hold ourselves to the top of the top, right? Expect that technician has to know 10 out of 10 on this test in order. They have to have 100% in order for them to be able to work on this car line or whatever it might be. I don't know if that's realistic as an industry. I'm not trying to make excuses for people that, have the diagnostic dice or whatever, but I'm just talking about the reality of the situation we're trading people. We're trading, signing bonuses and, fly you to another state to move there and all this stuff because it is that desperate. 5 years ago, Carmen and I were talking about 50% of technicians were retiring out. They're 50 and over. Mm-hmm. And we're there now and it's accelerating.
And I know it's accelerating because I think my age was in line with the average age of the tech and the trade or profession. And now it's ahead of me now. It's older. It's leapfrogged me by, I think, quite a bit. I think we're now, average age is in the 50s.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And guess what some of those guys that are doing that couldn't afford to retire? They're using, their shoulders and their elbows are worn out. So at this point, it's using this. And the ones that can do that, the ones that can transition to this computer, this thing called the computer and be able to help online can do that. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with hiring somebody with 40 years experience and taking that call about that weird fuel injection system that only came on, 1 year, right? And they have that information in their head.
Carm here, and coming up, did you know that scan tools in general do not program? With registration now open for Apex 2021 in Las Vegas, You can already feel the excitement building for this year's homecoming. Hey, I can't wait to reconnect with all of you in person and share stories of our time apart, both personal and professional. I also can't wait to sit in on the technical and business management training that was designed and is specifically for you, the service professional. Now, with more than 20 sessions, you'll hear from the best of the best, including Guy Vesco, who will lead a session on hybrid and EV high voltage systems, and Greg Bunch, an expert on mastering the art of trust-based selling. Hey, make sure to also experience the new Repair Shop HQ in Joe's Garage. It's designed with you in mind. And visit the show floor to see many new products and emerging technologies. The dates again, November 2nd through the 4th, 2021. Be there. Register now. AAPEXshow.com. I want to let you in on a little secret. Investing in a cloud-based shop management system could be the smartest purchase you make in 2021. Manual processes can really add up and cost your shop unnecessary time and money. Now, if you're writing out repair orders, you're wasting time. If you're chasing customers for approvals, you're wasting time. If you're manually calculating invoices or logging into multiple systems, you're wasting time. And if you're wasting time, well, then you're wasting money. Do me a favor, pull up Chrome, Safari, or whatever browser you use and type in getshopware.com. Click on the Book a Demo button in the upper right corner and check out Shopware's amazingly efficient software. Trust me, you won't regret it. Again, that's getshopware.com.
I have a scan tool question for you, Bill. When do you decide as that you need to acquire another tool? At what point do you look at that?
I don't dare qualify myself in the decision process. All I ever say to my guys is they know me well enough to know if it's time to buy a tool, let's talk about it and get it done. Let's get her done.
Historically, where have you said, yeah, let's do it? Have you ever said no?
I don't think I've ever said no. And it's not because I'm a tool junkie or anything like that. I decided.
You have a good group of guys.
Yeah, I decided a few years back that I wanted to I was essentially going to give them a raise by not having them take on this added expense. I think, as an owner, I think it's absolutely horrible to expect a technician to buy a tool that some guys are going to be borrowing and whatever. And that was a problem. And so we took that off. There's so many problems that you resolve when you provide the technicians with the more expensive shop tools that they can all use. And to the extent that things don't go missing and they don't get damaged.
Right.
What's the problem here? You're giving them a raise. It's a tax write-off for you as a shop owner. And you don't have the bickering back and forth about how I buy tools and he doesn't buy tools. And you don't have this infighting. Goes away.
I covered my version of that on the first episode where it's a retention tool because I have all the tools. I use it as a reason that it's factored into their total compensation package, right? What'd you spend on tools last year? Don't worry about that anymore. Yeah. So, and we've covered that. Yeah. So I just that was my thought. I wondered what I'm in a crossbreed between you two, both guys. I do what Matt does. I'm in a bay a lot. I'm doing diag, but I also have to financially run this business responsibly and deal with the profit side of it. And is this going to have ROI or is it an indirect ROI? I buy some tools because of an indirect ROI. They get to my first year of having Volkswagen Audi, it did not net me any profit. It cost me money. But the fact I said yes every time someone called for a Volkswagen or an Audi, that was worth it. And I acquired customers going, well, we just call this guy every time. And the other jobs, maybe the Fords and the GMs I got off of those indirectly covered that cost by the added profit. So I just wondered what your thought process on that was. Yeah. But that's interesting. You haven't really turned it down. You've got a good group of guys for sure.
Yeah, I have a great group of guys.
So really I have an interesting idea to try to do. Mm-hmm. OE scan tools aside, what would you name as a scan tool for? I'll just try to rattle off certain car lines.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to do this off the cuff. So if I miss ones, please forgive me. So we'll just start with I don't know if you want to group certain ones together or we'll just do General Motors.
Not OE, right? We're just trying to go with aftermarket.
That's what I was thinking. And the domestic stuff, I think the aftermarket stuff is strong enough that maybe that's a waste of
we can almost group them just domestic, Japanese.
If GM Ford Chrysler, would you have a preference in aftermarket tool?
Yeah, I feel like the late model Autels with the topology covers so much.
It's really
so beneficial for those.
Yeah, is the launch topology different than my Phoenix? Because my Phoenix does topology recently, but on all the vehicles, or I should say only on very certain vehicles, does it divide topology up by network. It's more by powertrain, body, chassis. It's not the actual network. Autel
does it by network.
Network. And
the whole K line, this is all of them. This is the medium speed CAN. This is the high speed.
Yeah. And knock on wood, it's been very, very accurate.
Yes, it has. It leaves that you have to understand the platform you're on. And if you're on a 2012, GMC pickup and it says that the ABS module didn't talk, that should be a red flag.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Because if you want to knock it, if it doesn't, as it's polling the modules, if that module doesn't respond, it doesn't mark it as offline bad. It marks it offline, not there.
Optional.
There you go. Optional.
Yeah. It's an optional module.
Yep. Didn't come equipped. The clue may be, hopefully, other modules are pointing at the ABS module going like, hey, ABS module's not there. That would be your clue. So then let's go with the Asian, but we probably have to keep it mainly Acura, Honda, Japan, Toyota, Lexus, and Nissan Infiniti.
With exclusion of Nissan, I'm okay with an aftermarket scan tool. Either Launch or Autel work really well on those. I find the G-Scan works well on almost anything Asian. When we get to Korean, which is probably next, I almost exclusively say you need to grab the G-Scan because although it's aftermarket, it's OE level. GIT America, the company that wrote the software for the OE, manufactured this aftermarket scan tool geared directly towards that market.
Yep. So Korean market, Hyundai, Kia, G-Scan 2, right?
2 or 3, either one.
2 or 3?
Yeah. The 3's got much better hardware. It's a lot faster. The 2 had the scope module, though. You could get the scope module to go on the back of the 2.
Is the 3 the one that's still handheld?
Yes.
Was there another one that became a tablet?
The G-Scan Tab, which isn't for sale separate in the US. You can purchase it from the UK. The only way you can get it with US models is actually with the Farsight tablet before they were repurchased by Autologic, DrewTech, Opus.
Okay.
That's a great tool.
Yeah, too few people know about G-Scan.
Yes.
And I think too few people know about one you might rattle off when we start getting into Euro. Let's separate for Euro Volkswagen Audi by itself.
Obviously, VCDS is probably the commanding leader for aftermarket because they're specialized so well. Yep. Yeah. But I think you're probably running the same thing I am, that the later model we get, the less and less that VCDS, and more so than other. Everyone says that, oh yeah, when you get to 2021, you got to have the OE stuff. I mean like 14, 15.
Yeah.
Because of the online coding that's required for replacement and just activations and functions, I feel like Otis is a requirement if you're really going to work on anything past 12, 13.
Yep. And when they shifted from the measuring blocks, a lot of times VCDS doesn't even decode or tell you what you're looking at. You're looking at a data stream and you have no idea what this changing number is.
You're like, based on the data, it is either purge or high pressure fuel control or I hope it's not.
Maybe I'll keep them split up. How about BMW?
Autologic has been my forever grab, but as of recent, I've ran into where I have to have both that and the iScan if I'm going to go aftermarket. Because there's like this random, it's always used modules. It's always someone has put like the wrong ABS module in the car, and Autologic's like, look, man, this is not supposed to work. We don't think you should do it. And iScan's like, press this button and we'll do whatever you want. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
So it's more dangerous.
Yeah, I don't have Autologic. Autel's been pretty good to me. Maybe F-Cars, not so much. I'm a little more weary with that.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. And then I have iScan 2. I want to get iScan 3, but I've been using iScan 2. And it's solid. There's been cases where it would do stuff that the Autel would not, or certain things it just does easier. The menu, sometimes the Autel menus can be a little confusing sometimes.
If it's any more comfort to you, the iScan 3 makes the same noise when you turn it on.
Well, that's it. I'm calling up Robert and I'm getting one. Mercedes-Benz.
I grab my AutoLogic tool almost exclusively. iScan's been adding a ton of functions to it, but I just feel like I have so much more. So that's where when we get into these tools, like you look at the total package of some of these AutoLogic tools, and it's not just a scan tool because you're paying. I'm paying the monthly fee to have their tech support. I mean, honestly,
like a car line specialist.
Yeah, I don't know a better way to put it, because even myself, being as specialized I am in what I do, sometimes I'll get a call like, "Hey, we need you to drive out 45 minutes to come code this active grille shutter in this 2019 Porsche Cayenne," and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't have PWIS because it's too expensive, and I get asked to do Porsche 3 times a year, and it just isn't there yet. And I've been able to do so much AutoLogic. So I'll put in a support ticket. I have these 7 tools that will talk to this Porsche. Will any of them do this job before I drive 45 minutes? Someone will call me and go, "Yeah, our tool doesn't do it, but I think the iScan does," or whatever. I will literally get honest answers from them. You try to play their side. I was doing an F-car BMW once, and I was out there at the collision center, had terrible internet reception, and I needed to know the function to do this. And I was like, I really could just boot up ISTA for $30 for today. I have my ICOM with me, but the internet was so terrible. I bought it, and then it was going to be 4 hours to get it updated. Yeah. And I was like,
Yep.
I called the guy. He goes, "We can't." He goes, "But your Autel should probably do it." And I'm like, I don't really want to code this F chassis. It was a heads up unit. It was a 2020 X3. Autel did it.
Nice.
And I mean, they didn't want to do it through the Drive Pro because the internet connection was terrible, but the way that the Autel acquires the file and pushes it in, it's less pass through, more grabbing the file and then from the tool putting in. So internet speed's less important.
Nice. Yeah, and I think the support stuff too comes in handy. This is probably a really crap example. It didn't involve tech support, but it's a situation I think where tech support would help a lot of people. Is I had a Audi A8 that I installed the night vision camera module, not the camera, the module.
Right.
And when you're done with it, it needs to get coded. It needs to get programmed, SVM if we want to speak Audi, and then it needs to get calibrated. And what I'm listing off is the fault plan in my head in order on the fault plan. And then lastly, it needs something called component protection. And so I'm bombing through these, right? Just whipping through them. Things are going really smoothly. Oh, this is great. And then I get to calibration, and I can't get it to see the target to save my life. The target sits in front, like 100, or not even 100. It's a few centimeters, like maybe 3 feet tops, 2 feet, right in front of the frickin' night vision camera. How can it not see it? And I'm kind of panicking a little bit and going back to my plan. And I see below calibration, I see component protection. So I'd been following it, step 1, step 2, step 3. I decided to just try to do component protection. It does it. Not only does it do it for the camera module, it also does it, kind of bangs through all the modules. And then at the end, it says all modules enabled. And then it does the calibration. I mean, just bang, done.
Yep. Well, we can see it.
Right. Now, novice user maybe wouldn't know that you can jump around in a plan.
Yep. Because they're going to click execute.
Yep.
Test
so
plan.
Now you have a tech support like, essentially Opus that when you're paying them the money and you have the tool, they support you, not necessarily the tool, So you have Otis and you call up and you get their Volkswagen Audi Carline specialist and you tell them you have your Otis hooked up. More than likely, and I'm not probably 100%, not even more than likely, they're going to tell you exactly what you need to do. And that comes in extremely handy. Okay, so Mercedes, what we got? Volvo?
I think depending upon the generation, I'll grab the Autel, or if it's older, I'll probably grab the Blue Box Autologic. It's real fast.
It used to be super powerful on Volvo.
Yeah, I have a Blue Box still, so it functions so much quicker. And it's not to knock their new tool. Their new tool adds so much more capability, but it's built on a terribly inexpensive Windows-based laptop or Windows-based tablet that has performance specifications, technical specifications, the type of memory that it has, and the type of processor is its limiting factor. So, like when I do a Blue Link transaction where I'm asking them to do a Mercedes programming event for me over the internet, I actually just myself or one of my guys, I tell them, just get your CardAC 3 and your laptop. And they have the Blue Link loader installed on them already. I'm like, boot it up to the Mercedes partition and they'll do it that way. Oh, I got the Drive Pro. Like, no, it's a much smoother transaction that way.
Nice. That probably leaves Jaguar Land Rover, I suppose.
Yeah. And that always comes back to depending on generation. I have less luck with Autel than what I would like to have had, because I figured it would be so much more like a BMW, but Autel, I get really good aftermarket coverage on the diagnostic over internet protocol, the Pathfinder cars, and then the other ones, Autologic is just a rock star. Okay. If it's not a diagnostic over internet protocol, the Blue Box probably is going to do it for me.
Nice.
I've done 16, 17 restraint control modules through the Blue Box, put through the order. They download the software to the tool, and you can do the programming event on board, not like a JBox process, you're doing on-board programming with it. And it covers data PIDs so well.
Yeah, I walk over to them with 3 scan tools in my arms.
Yeah, every time.
Auto Launch and iScan, because that's what I got.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I can get SDS or JLR,
STD,
IDS. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. STD. Sorry.
Yeah, symptom-driven diagnostics.
Yeah. I can get that up and going and it works and I've used it, but first shot, I got 3 scan tools in my arms when I walk over to one of those.
Yeah. And if you only had to pick 3 scan tools and you had like an Autel and a Launch, and you can, depend upon what you've got, either an iScan or an Autologic or whatever else, between like an Autel and Launch, you're going to get like 95% coverage on diag, just in special functions and activations, adaptations, battery resets, throttle learns, all of that. All these other tools we talk about, I feel like fill in that 5% of the market that you have trouble with.
Yep.
I think the mobile diagnostic industry, Keith, that you are in, is vibrant. I think it's going to do nothing but grow. And the proof of the pudding was all the things that I wrote down here within your and Matt's exchange. And I'm thinking, wow, Autel and VCS and Otis and iScan and Autologic, and this is primary and that would be secondary. And Matt says, I'm going to walk with these 3 tools. And I find it so fascinating that there isn't one that is. It sounded like there was a universal one, Keith, where there was an awful lot of, I think you said Autel a lot.
Yeah.
But guys, I start to think about everyone who's listening to this, they're enthralled by this great knowledge that you guys are sharing. And then, it's like going to buy that tool at the OE and getting some pushback. When you guys get a chance to buy one of these aftermarket tools, do the salespeople know enough about it to help someone make a decision?
Okay, that's a big depends.
Yeah.
Where are you buying it from? The truck guys, forget about it.
Yeah.
No, the truck guys and the truck guy specialists, like it's not Techno Systems anymore.
Techno.
Is it? Yeah, okay, Techno. No, they're not even in it. We're very fortunate to have many other sellers that maybe, don't show up in a truck that you're going to call on the phone or interact with online. We mentioned one last episode. Isaac Rodell's one that he can answer almost any question. If he can't, he's going to find out in about 5-10 minutes because he's going to message somebody that knows. And there's many of them. There's many different vendors that are very knowledgeable.
If you're going to buy a tool, and Keith, it's almost like what you were saying. I needed to do this in this situation, And what you just said to me is it's possible that the salesperson may not necessarily know. And it goes back to what Bill was saying about, do we need a resource? Obviously, Keith is the resource. Matt's a resource. There's so many guys out there that have been there and done that and can pretty much, write a blog about what works and what doesn't. So I'm sure there's a million case studies out there to read. But I don't have time to stop. I don't have 20 hours to go out and figure out which is the right tool. I just want to talk to somebody. I want to listen to something. I want to quickly hear it.
Yeah. And you have entities like AES Wave too. You call and you talk to Carlos, you talk to Scott, and then
they're great.
If they don't know, and they can answer a lot of questions, but if they don't know, they've got a network of people to reach out to. They're going to get you what you need. Whether they can, maybe they don't even sell it. They'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah. That's a big one, is that we constantly go back to that, is creating a resource or having that resource and utilizing it and asking. And I think like every contemplation of a scan tool purchase should be like that. And there's I do want to say what I find highly entertaining is I'm going to call him out. Advanced Auto Parts has one of the best individuals on their team that you can reach out to and ask about a scan tool, but he is the most underutilized individual in that entire company. That's Kip.
Yeah,
so I don't know what his title is. I don't know enough about it, but he's the scan tool guy for Advanced Auto Parts. And luckily he's realized that being on these social media groups is a massive benefit. But there are like 4,500. I used to be the store manager for Advanced Auto Parts a long time ago, previous life. And these guys, these stores have no idea what kind of capabilities they have. And there's one of those for every company, is what's crazy. The resources are out there, but we haven't taken all the steps to put them in place in front of everyone for them to know there's not a spot to go.
And it's unfortunately not a new problem. We're talking about, your website. And I don't know the numbers. I don't know how well or not well it's doing, what you expect out of it, anything like that. But we roll back the clock. 20, 25 years. You have Jim Wilson from, California, Jim Wilson, flatrater.com, GM Tech, has a website that is it is pure gold. It is gold. That's what it was. Yes, he only did GM vehicles, but what his thought process is translated over across everything. Right. And he couldn't keep it up due to lack of subscriptions. And it's not like people didn't know who he was. He was a voice on IATN and whatnot. But historically, when you have resources like flatrater.com and Keith's website, L1,
ScanShare.
Yeah, ScanShare.
IATN.
Diag.net. I don't know if the techs themselves, there's just not enough of them that can afford it on their own dime, or enough shop support. Along with scan tools and all that, what about subscriptions to these resources? If you're thinking about getting into BMW, why aren't you on Seth's, LMV Bavarian? Yeah. That just seems like a no-brainer. I can call up Justin Morgan about a problem, and he's going to take me where I need to go. And just historically, we don't support this type of stuff well enough. Here and there, man, it's... I don't know the fix other than can we get a...
Matt, I think it's the same thought process. You go to the doctor and you say, I've got this pain in my side, right? And he tells you you've got high blood pressure, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not exercising, you're not eating the right food. But if you just take care of the problem right now, I just need you to get my pain. If you can just take care of my pain right now,
just need a pill.
I promise I'll come back next week and we'll talk all about this, right? Same kind of situation. The tech that's buried in this thing, he just wants you to save him from this problem today. But there's no solution. There's no shop solution. There's no tech solution. There's an industry solution, but how does the industry get to the kind of penetration rates that makes Keith's statement in the last episode not make my head spin? The fact that we've got 80, 90% of shops around the country don't know that there's an aftermarket, that there's an OEM tool that they can purchase.
Or that they already have the hardware for and just need a short-term subscription and someone to do a Java update to make it work.
Yeah.
And we can walk into most I regularly service customers that have J boxes. So yeah, we got one in the box over there. We've actually tried to hook it up once, and the software didn't have any programming in it because they were sold on the fact that you buy this box and plug it in and it does programming. I had a massive company with 35 stores that sells used parts. They're a salvage company they're one of the largest. And they called and said, we're looking at getting into module programming because we found out that we are selling hundreds of modules to companies that are programming them and then reselling them for 5 times what they purchased them for. We've done a bunch of research and we think we need to buy just this one tool and it should be good to go. Is that right? And I'm like, not at all. They were convinced that purchasing an Autel tool was going to allow them to program everything. And that's still a misconception in the Bays too. That it is shrouded in secrecy, I think, is what people feel like, that programming and coding is this thing that only certain tools do, and they're not even aware that it's of the structure of that. They're not aware of the difference between a scan tool and a diagnostic platform, like you brought up, Bill. It's completely separate. That I have to explain daily in 4 or 5 emails. Every video has hundreds of comments about will it program? And I have to explain every time that scan tools in general don't program things.
Yeah.
That usually you have to use an interface box with a software subscription and acquire that through the internet in a live transaction that takes place to push that software in. And then the coding is different than that. And that initialization is a slightly different thing than that. And those, sometimes all 3 need to be required, sometimes just 2, sometimes it's 1 transaction, sometimes... Yeah. I just need to change this VIN in this PCM. Like, well, for that manufacturer, unfortunately, you have to do a whole programming event. Oh, we just did one for this Chrysler. Like, yeah, it's just a scan tool function for that car.
Yep.
Yeah. And it all comes down to reading service info, actually. I think every time.
I don't know about you, Bill. This was mind-numbing.
Above my pay grade. These guys are amazing.
If it was above yours, then it's way above mine, for sure. I can't. I took away standards, access to data, resources, all of these issues that I think compound people from not doing it right, Matt. I mean, to your point, I think in episode 2, and I would love, guys, to continue to talk about this. And I don't know. And I'm not right now, but I'd love to come. Let's get these things out. Let's see what kind of play they get. And I almost think that we almost need to take a cross section of what we did not talk about or what you guys did not talk about and possibly continue this series. I don't mind you. Hell, I got series out there 7, 8 episodes in a row because it was a great theme to discuss. And all of a sudden you guys may have a bing moment, wow. I just realized something we didn't cover.
Well, yeah, I think obviously not trying to extend this, just seeds. The one that pops into my head is service information.
Part of some scan tools,
yep,
separate to others.
And Carm, if I may say something here, maybe as we close this, I personalize this conversation, and what I mean by that is I call on every shop owner out there to understand that they're the facilitator to all this. We have this thing called repair facilities, and we facilitate this, and we facilitate why people stay with us and why they go. And that's not just for customers, but for technicians, these highly skilled, ever more rare people. And we facilitate the ability to invest in equipment and inventory and technology, and we sell that. We're the ones that are supposed to be able to sell this repository of very perishable information to customers. And fighting the fixeds of the world out there that want to dumb this thing down to nonsense, and we have to break through all of that. So I hold myself responsible for the successes and failures going forward as a shop owner, because it's really incumbent on us to understand that some of us need to grow out of the technician mentality. I don't have that problem. I was never really a tech. I was a tech. I worked on cars, but never to the extent that you and Matt. Keith and Matt worked on vehicles. But the business person in this equation is the one who holds the future of this entire industry, I believe.
Well, you've got the purse strings. And here's Keith and Matt talking about purse strings. And, can we convince the people that, there's 3 or 4 tools that need to be in the arsenal? If you want to, like you said, Keith, do 90% of the work. And so look around. Again, you may have stuff that just isn't getting it done, but no one wants to tell you because maybe you've been a little tight with your money, or maybe you haven't embraced that level of not only technology, but guys, maybe we should talk about how do you get training on these tools? Maybe I think we talked about in episode 1 a little bit about training. So, hey, this was great. Thank you. Again, I think you guys could just go on for 2 hours, but I want to put a bow in it. Thank you so much to Matt. For bringing this thing together again, from Riverside Automotive, Matt Fanslow, from Red Wing, Minnesota, Keith Perkins, L1 Automotive Diag and Programming, and also from L1 Automotive and L1Training.com, right? Mm-hmm. And to Bill Nalu from Interstate Automotive in Madison Heights, Michigan. Guys, thanks again. Part 3, Scan Tools.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, gents.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.